Hello guys, welcome back to another video and I am reacting to the Pizzagate. Let's get started.
Could you imagine a world where the top 1%, the elites of our society, the ruling class, the ones who run the government and are pulling the strings behind everything, are secretly involved in some of the most depraved things that you could ever possibly imagine? I'm getting a feeling of deja vu. I feel like I've heard this story before somewhere. Nowadays, that might not be that hard to believe, but back in 2016, this was something that was unfathomable to most people. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. My name is Chase, and today we're talking about Pizzagate. So when Pizzagate started gaining traction during the heated 2016 election cycle on places like Poll, 4chan's political board, it wasn't hard to initially dismiss the whole thing as nothing more than a crazy alt-right conspiracy. But I think it's worth revisiting the theory in modern times, especially in light of recent events. Let me say first and foremost that I have no political bias here, and all I care about is the evidence that has been presented. My goal is not to convince you that Pizzagate is real, nor is it to disprove it. All I'm here to do is...
Who do you think will believe that it is not real? Because come on, this is real thing.
present to you the theory as a whole and all the supporting evidence, and then you can come to your own conclusions. I'll also note here that I've spent over a month going down this rabbit hole, and every mainstream source is so quick to say that it's debunked and there's no truth behind it at all, but I haven't seen a single one of them actually debunk any of the evidence. But you should...
I thought that the elite were some kind of genius people who were using secret words for specially secret things, but after the Epstein file, I don't believe them. I believe that all of them are total idiots, but I don't know how they never get caught by like law, because they were literally saying all of kind of stuff in front of everyone, and like if they need children and they want to do something, they will just say it in the emails, or if they want to finish somebody, they will say it, and different kind of stuff. So it was not a secret. I don't know why they decided to just openly say all kind of stuff, and they were like believing it that much that no one will do anything to them.
Obviously take their word for it, because they probably have hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars even, and I'm just a little chud in my room sitting at my computer, so I'm sure they just have more information that I don't and no one else does for some reason. Viewer discretion, of course. We're going to be talking about some dark shit here, so if you don't want to watch that, this is not the video for you. That all said, I hate to say it, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get right into it. Pizzagate sparked in 2016 when WikiLeaks published over 20,000 emails from the inbox of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman during her presidential run. Immediately after these leaks were published, people online began scanning these emails line by line, finding many strange references and jokes that sparked suspicion that there was something more going on here. Before we go over some of these emails, it's important to note here that while the interpretations of the coded language within the emails is unsubstantiated, the emails themselves are completely legitimate. The Podesta emails were reviewed and confirmed to be authentic by multiple US intelligence agencies, including the CIA, FBI, and the NSA, which is the National Security Agency. So while the interpretations of these emails can be debated, nobody is disputing the authenticity of the emails themselves. Of course, I can't talk about all 20,000 emails here, and most of them are mundane and irrelevant to what we're here to talk about today, but here are a few of the most notable ones that helped fuel the initial theory. One of the first emails that really caught people's attention was sent by Susan Sandler, a philanthropist and political donor who did donate to Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign run, to John Podesta. The email reads, "Hi John, the realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a map that seems pizza related. Is it your ruse? They can send it if you want."
By the way, this email does not even make sense, like how she said that they find some handkerchief and it is a map that seems related to pizza. What the hell is the context of the whole conversation? No one talk like that. Come on, what it mean?
Know you're busy, so feel free not to respond if it's not yours or you don't want it. I just came from checking the field house, and I have a square cloth handkerchief, white with black, that was left on the kitchen island. Happy to send it via mail if you let me know where I should send it. It's not hard to see why this would catch people off guard. What is a map that seems pizza related on a handkerchief? What the fuck does that even mean? Well, coincidentally, the handkerchief code is a color-coded system that people use to communicate their interests and pleasures non-verbally. Different colors relate to different acts or things that people are
Okay, so I don't even know about that because I thought maybe like the pizza and cheese and things like that were the kind of secret words, especially for all kind of stuff. But I don't know there was a whole list of that.
Into, and I will not elaborate farther on that. If it's that important to you, you can look that up on your own time. These people are like old boomers, so maybe they just communicate differently and they have some dementia going on. But again, what is a pizza-related map? What even is that? Another email that caught people's attention was sent to John Podesta by Herbert Sandler, who was at the time a co-CEO of Golden West Financial Corporation, a major political donor to the Clinton campaign. Now Herbert Sandler is burning in hell. I'm joking. Rest in peace, Herbert Sandler. I'm sure he did nothing wrong at all. Mary and John, I think you should give notice when changing strategies which have been long in place. I immediately realized something was different by the shape of the box, and I contemplated who would be sending me something in the square-shaped box. Lo and behold, instead of pasta and wonderful sauces, it was a lovely, tempting assortment of cheeses. Yummy. I'm awaiting the return of my children and grandchildren from their holiday travels so that we can demolish them. Thank you so much. I hope you and your gang are well.
What kind of people talks like that? And what do you mean by I'm waiting the return of my grandchildren and so that we can demolish them? What do you mean by what kind of demolishing? Who talks like that? Like, what do you mean? What do you want to do that?
I miss you both. Best wishes, throw a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Herb. P.S. Do you think I'll do better playing dominoes on cheese than pasta? The thing that stood out as weird to people is that last line. It's just worded in such a strange way. People don't typically refer to eating something as being on something. People online began theorizing that cheese and pasta and these terms used for food were actually code word for something else. That something else being kids. And I know that's quite the leap in logic to make, but it's not the only example of
Yeah, and another thing is why the hell they do all kind of stuff to children. I don't understand. Like, for example, if you are that rich, you can just hire prostitute at that point, and there is a lot of OF girls that you can do stuff to. But why the hell do you need children for? I can't understand why they do that.
Strange references to food in these emails. Like this email sent from Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, would love to get a pizza for an hour. Like again, what does that mean? If we're just talking about lunch, that is not a normal way to say that. Imagine you're
Yeah, like how you are saying that you're going to eat pizza for an hour. Like what?
your friend gets a hold of you and they say, hey dude, you want to go get a pizza for about an hour? Like what? What does that mean? This one is in a long chain of emails, so I'll spare you from me reading the entire thing, but the part that stood out to people here was, Bonnie will be Uber service to transport Ruby, Emerson, and Maeve Lozado, 11, 9, and almost 7, so you'll have some farther entertainment, and they will be in that pool for sure. Excuse me? What? That obviously sounds really bad, and unfortunately there's no context that makes it sound any better. And it just gets weirder because there's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down with this woman. Reportedly, Lozado ran a website known as Evie's Crib, which was kind of like a blog. It's hard to confirm because as soon as people started talking about this, it was removed almost immediately, but
and another thing is that they are like that brave enough to post this kind of stuff, and they just wait for people to find about them, and they then delete this kind of post or comments.
if this blog is real, it looks really bad. The website apparently featured many pictures of Lozado around young children, including her step-granddaughter, Evie. The header of the website reads, Evelyn is growing up. Soon she will be the queen of the entire US of A. Right now, for a limited time only, you can spend some time with her online, raw and uncut.
What the fuck? What do you mean by raw and uncut? I'm pretty sure that she was doing what you are thinking currently, and yeah, they were this evil to do that kind of stuff to children, and especially even if their children are their own, they don't give a shit about them, and it is kind of horrible.
Take advantage.
And again, they just post this kind of stuff to like normal internet, and people don't even realize that something is going on.
advantage of this now, as in the future she will have the power of life and death over you. First of all, why are people spending time online with your granddaughter at all? And then raw and uncut, that is just a really weird way to describe that. Whoever was running this website categorized these posts with labels so you can find exactly what you're looking for easily. Posts were labeled under categories such as psychopath, evil white bitch, filth, malpractice, discomfort, manipulation, and Ambien.
Yeah, they were just brave enough to post everything, and come on, how it's possible that no one realized that? Maybe we were not thinking about they can do this kind of stuff that openly, that how we don't and never like realized everything was happening like that.
Sorry.
Ambien, for those who don't know, is a prescription drug that is classified as a hypnotic and is used to treat insomnia short term. One of the side effects of Ambien is that it wipes your memory. Many people have no recollection of anything else that occurred or what they did after dosing. Why would that be a category on this blog that she apparently uses to post pictures of her children and grandchildren? That's really anyone's best guess. Another picture on this blog shows a baby after bath time, and while not inherently sinister, it's definitely a little bit weird even though you can't see anything. But the caption here is what really stands out. It ends with, "Unrated version of this photo available only to premium subscribers."
Yeah, they were definitely selling their children picture. There is not a single person who can convince me that this was not a case.
At the absolute best, if this website is real, which again I can't confirm, this is an incredibly weird and tasteless joke to make. This is something that I feel uncomfortable even saying right now. The last email we'll cover for right now is sent by Maria Abramovich to Tony Podesta and later forwarded to his brother John Podesta. Google describes Abramovich as a conceptual performance artist who has pushed the boundaries of performance art as a visual art form since the 1970s. Personally, I would just say that she's a freak, but anything is art, right? Dear Tony, I am so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you will be able to let me know if your brother is joining? All my love.
What do you mean by spirit cooking? What kind of thing you are doing? I'm pretty sure they are again doing some demonic ritual and demonic stuff.
Marina Abramovich. I think I called her Maria a second ago, but anyways, it seems innocent enough at first glance. But what is spirit cooking? I mean, probably just some unconventional or traditional way of cooking if I had
No, they are definitely doing some kind of demonic rituals.
to guess, but it actually turns out that's not what it is at all. You see, spirit cooking is an art form or occult ritual invented by Abramovich, inspired by the idea that ghosts feed off of intangible things like light, sound, and emotion. For this
See, I told you that they were doing that kind of stuff.
reason, her recipes involve things like evocative instructions for actions and thoughts, and bodily fluids. A few excerpts from her cookbook are as follows. With a sharp knife, cut deeply into your middle finger of your left hand, eat the pain. Look in the mirror for as long as it is necessary for your face to disappear. Don't eat the light. A moment ago, I referred to spirit cooking as an art project or an occult ritual, and I wasn't being facetious. This is how Abramovich herself views her work. In an AMA on Reddit, Marina says herself that the context is what makes something art or not. Quote, "Everything depends on which context you are doing what you are doing. If you are doing the occult magic in the context of art or in a gallery, then it is art. If you are doing it in a different context, in spiritual circles or private house or on TV shows, it is not art. The intention, the context for what it is made, and where it is made defines what art is or not." So in her own words, they are doing an occult ritual.
I still I am thinking that how it possible that they are openly showing what they can do and what they are doing, and people don't even realize what they are doing at that time. And now we can see that they were doing some kind of demonic rituals, and they love to worship Moloch and Baal or whatever it is.
If you're curious to see this spirit cooking, you can find a video online of Abramovich giving one of these artistic performances herself as demonstration. The video shows Abramovich writing phrases from her cookbook on a wall in pig's blood and then dousing the statue of a small child in it. Now, of course, there's no way to say for sure if John Podesta attended this spirit cooking event or not, but coincidentally, in photographs from around that time, John Podesta can be seen with a band-aid on his left hand's middle finger. And people online
he absolutely attend that kind of demonic rituals, and he is part of that. Simple as that.
have also mentioned that his hands, and particularly his fingers, are awfully scarred, as if they've been deeply wounded repeatedly. But I'm sure that's unrelated. Clearly, these are really bad optics, and we've already reached a point where the absolute best case scenario is that these people are involved in the occult and are doing blood rituals in private.
Yeah, that is the case, and it is simple.
People who are powerful ruling class members of society are being invited to, in private, perform ceremonies and worship old world gods like Moloch and Baal. But
yeah, because they absolutely love that kind of demonic things. I don't even know what other thing I can say to them, and I don't know why they do that. For example, if you are millionaire or billionaire, come on, that's enough money for you. Why the f you just decided to worship a demonic entity? And the fact is that you know it is a demonic entity. It's not like you are being brainwashed and you think that it is some kind of angel or god or whatever the case is, and a deity. No, it is literally wants you to sacrifice children and do all kind of bad stuff for that demonic entity, and you are still doing it for little bit of more money while you already have enough money to live your life very comfortably. I don't know why they like do that.
More on that in a second. This is where James Alefantis and his world famous pizza come in, and it only gets weirder. So who is James Alefantis? Well, he's an entrepreneur who owns Comet Ping Pong, a pizza restaurant located in Washington, D.C., and also a location that was frequently mentioned in the Podesta emails. He's also one of the most powerful and influential people in the nation that you've never heard of. Despite being nothing more than a restaurant owner, GQ listed him as one of the 50 most powerful people in Washington in an article published in 20.
And imagine that there is a guy who is a simple chef of restaurant and he's selling a pizza, and there is an article about him that he's like top 50 most powerful people in Washington. How can a person be this much of a powerful and have that amount of connection while he is not even a big shot?
GQ writes, liberal 20-somethings in khakis drink beer and eat pizza at Alefantis-owned Comet Ping Pong. More established progressives wine and dine next door at Alefantis-owned Buck's Fishing Camping. Alefantis is also the board president of Transformer, the contemporary art gallery that shamed the Smithsonian for removing an installation offensive to right-wingers. When it comes to DC radical chic, Alefantis is unsurpassed. If you don't know him, you aren't wearing your scarf right. So basically, this restaurant owner is the pretentious king of the woke. And if you're left-wing and you don't know who James Alefantis is, you must not be wearing your scarf right. Get out of my pizza shop, you peasant. When it comes to radical chic in DC, I am undefeated. Anyways, if this guy is one of the 50 most powerful people in our nation's capital, he must make some pretty good pizza, or have connections somewhere else, right? Well, James Alefantis is a gay man who was involved in a relationship with David Brock, who was chief of Media Matters, a major media organization tied to the Democratic Party, until he left in 2022. David Brock also founded Correct the Record, a super PAC created in 2016 to support the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, and it start always with some kind of super PAC to just give to politician, and then somehow those politicians obsessed with them to do whatever they can to help these kind of people, and they can just do whatever they want and nothing happens to them, which is like completely real. You can just look at the current Trump administration, like how if you are in a very bad situation where you know that you will get life imprisonment or maybe like years in prison, how about you donate maybe 1 million, 2 million, 5 million to Trump, as a donation, and then suddenly you will get pardon, and it's that much easy. I don't understand how American people has allowed their own prime minister to get that kind of immunity and that kind of power to do whatever the f they want, and no one just say anything against them.
At a surface level, this doesn't seem that weird, and it does help explain some of the political power and influence that James Alefontis has. But then people found his Instagram account, @JimmyComet, and as you can probably guess, it only gets weirder. We'll start with this picture that he had up on his Instagram showing a young child being held in a man's arms. Nothing wrong with that, but the caption of this picture is #ChickenLovers. Chicken lover is well-known coded language that was used in the 1994 documentary film Chicken Hawk that focuses on homosexual relationships with a large age gap. An age gap so large that it makes the relationship itself criminal. There's also this image that appears to be of a walk-in cooler being referred to as the kill room in the comments. Alefontis captioned this picture, "Oh yeah, this looks fun," and then he went into the comments under his own post and wrote #murder. And like with everything else here, this is really only barely scratching the surface. There are countless weird pictures and captions from the Jimmy Comment Instagram, and if we went through all of them, we would be here all day.
Was that place used for some kind of killing people? Because even in Epstein file we can see that they were eating children. Come on, how it's possible to even think about eating some human meat? And here they were killing people, especially children, and eating them. How?
There's this picture of a young child with euros in his mouth, and Jimmy Comment writes, #Karis James loves spending euros. There's this picture of a baby doll holding a sign that says German baby $1,200.
Was he selling children? Maybe the doll was just a thing that no one will get suspicious of it, and he was literally selling a real children. I think that makes sense, because maybe a few years ago I remember that there were people who were selling weird stuff on Amazon which does not make sense, and also the prices of those were very high, and people were suspecting maybe they were selling children, and it was to like cover everything, and it was like that.
Please do not touch. Jimmy Comment writes, way overpriced. There's this picture of a young child with their hands taped to a ping pong table. And in the comments again, someone else writes, #Karis James. Karis James seems to be a recurring thing referenced in Jimmy Comment's captions and comments, and it's really anyone's best guess what that could be. But coincidentally, there is a small Caribbean island or island named Little St. James.
Yeah, it is Epstein Island. Let's see what happened.
That Caribbean island named Little St. James happened to be owned by a now very famous financier who was from New York. I'm sure you've seen that guy's name in the news recently. And of course, this was years before anyone knew what was happening at that island. That wouldn't come until 2019. Then people realized that Jimmy Comment's profile picture on Instagram wasn't a picture of him, it was actually a picture of a statue. Nothing weird about that, except that this specific statue was the statue of Antinous. Antinous was a Greek pubescent who got involved in a relationship with Roman Emperor Hadrian, who was in his late 40s, and he is specifically known as the Greek boy lover. Now, this wasn't seen as anything bad in the ancient world society.
By the way, another thing I don't understand about this kind of people is that they will love some weird kind of ancient guy, and they will just do whatever to become like that or have painting like that. Like for example, Moloch and Baal, which is demonic entity, they would love that. Or some kind of weird person in the past who was maybe some kind of king but do all kind of horrible stuff, they will love them. Or you can just see in this case a person like that, they will absolutely love him.
Societal norms, but of course we look at that a lot differently today. And this easily could have just been a coincidence, but in the bigger picture and everything else being considered, it's not hard to see why it would raise some questions. And that's really what this entire theory is based off of. How many coincidences are you willing to overlook in order to believe the official narrative that there's nothing else going on here? Even if you think this is just a bunch of conspiracy nonsense, it's not hard to see why so many people buy into it, because in order to believe there's nothing else going on, you have to chalk so many things up to coincidence and just overlook them.
But they are the people who are brainwashed that much that they will believe the media over you, and it is kind of like a real thing. because I have personally in my life seen a lot of people who will blindly follow what media say, and even if you try to tell them like it is a wrong thing, you don't have to do it or you don't have to follow it, they will still love to follow that over you which you are telling them truth. And that kind of people you can just found around the world, and they are like the blind believer of maybe followers or maybe some religion.
Cryptic emails, the occult rituals being mentioned in the emails, the profile picture, the pictures posted on the Instagram. And there's also the elephant in the room of why is this man who is attracted to other men, so he has no kids of his own, spending so much time around so many different young children? Putting aside the weird contexts and captions of these pictures, who even are these children?
I'm pretty sure they were trafficked children, or I don't know, maybe he bought it from their parents, because I have seen people do that. And recently in Pakistan there was a kind of incident where a German guy who rented a villa in Islamabad, he was frequently visiting that place, and then government decided to say like, wait a second, why that guy always visit that place, we need to like do investigation and check it out. And then they find out that there was a huge you can just say CP, underground dark web related thing going on there. Like he was paying people money who will bring children, like kidnap children, traffic children, or maybe sometime they will even bring their own relatives children to that guy. That guy will do all kind of bad stuff to those children to make videos and to sell them on dark web. But another thing which I was very angry about that incident is that the government decided to raid that place at a wrong time, because at that time that guy was not even in Pakistan, he was still in Germany. And then the government decided to raid that place. Everyone was arrested, but not that German guy. So it was a bad thing for Pakistani police to do, because they were there at a wrong time and not the right time.
Clearly, I'm not the only one wondering that, because even Snopes notes how strange his Instagram was and how James Alefantis does not have any children, and neither do his closest associates. And they also note how it was privated only 2 days after it was found, so clearly he knew how bad this all looked. And they even say in this same article that Pizzagate is false and it's all nonsense and not real at all. So even they can't just overlook this. They have to address the elephant in the room and be like, yeah, this guy's Instagram page is really fucking weird, and we actually have no clue who these kids are. And again, that's overlooking all the other stuff. Even if we knew how these kids were connected to James Alefantis, the pictures would still be really weird. The context of them, the captions. But on top of all of that, this is a guy with a boyfriend, so the kids clearly aren't his, and his closest associates and his friends don't have any children. While none of this is hard evidence of anything criminal happening, it really does make you wonder what's really going on here, and that's a genuine question. I would love for somebody to explain to me how this is all very innocent in nature and there's nothing weird going on, and I'm open to that explanation, I just haven't heard it. All of this just looks very weird, and it seems like the farther down this rabbit hole you go, you're left with more questions than answers. All I'm saying is that when you connect all the dots together, it really doesn't look good, and it does make you wonder if there's more going on here than what we know. Speaking of connecting the dots, James Alefantis has this picture of Marina Abramovich posted to his Instagram. So at the very least, he's a fan of her work, which I would say isn't exactly normal.
And another thing is, who the hell in the right mind will be fan of that kind of person?
I don't think I've ever personally met a Marina Abramovich fan, and I think most people don't even know who the hell that is. James Alefantis also has connections to Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother. Here they are pictured together in what seems to be some sort of campaign or fundraiser taking place at Comet. Doesn't really matter, but there they are. Okay, but that could just be a campaign. That doesn't really prove that they know each other, right? Well, here's another picture from the event that is much more candid, and it was posted to Jimmy Comet. He is literally brushing elbows with Tony Podesta in front of a cake, and side note, this guy is absolutely cheesing. Whether they know each other well or not, clearly Alefantis is very happy to be there next to Tony Podesta. And this just raises even more questions, especially when you look into Tony Podesta's art collection. And that's a whole nother can of worms that I'm not going to open here. All I'll say is that if you look at this guy's art collection, it feels illegal. It feels like I'm doing something wrong seeing it on my computer, and it's all over this guy's walls. When I started researching this, I went in hoping to find answers to some of this, but it doesn't seem like there are any. Everyone's very quick to tell you that this is all conspiracy and it's made up nonsense, and that very well might be the case, but nobody actually shows you where it's been disproven. Now let's talk about some of the symbolism that people have noticed, because I know I've said it a few times at this point, but it really does just get weirder and weirder. In 2007, an FBI document leaked showing specific symbols that predators use to identify each other. While looking at this document, people noticed that these symbols appear quite frequently in businesses, logos, and imagery of not only Comet Pizza, but surrounding businesses as well. For starters, Comet Pizza had this Play, Eat, and Drink, or PED logo on their website, which many people believe resembles one of these symbols. On the subject of Comet Pizza's website, the website was hacked in 2016, and the hacker shared an apparent members-only section. This members-only area was password protected, but when a password was entered, it brought you to a downloads page. On this page, you're able to download various large zip files, but each one requires a specific download key. Keep in mind,
so it is similar to that they like a kind of 18 plus website where they are selling different kind of videos, and I am pretty sure they were not selling adult stuff. Like I mean by 18 plus person doing each other, I am pretty sure they were selling CP there, and that how they were doing it. Because even in I think Epstein file, there was a case of how the people were saying like, okay, if you want to access that file, how about you send me money, and it was like that. And I'm pretty sure it is similar to that they were selling all kind of stuff.
this is a pizza place. What could possibly be the reason to have a members-only section on the website with downloadable files available? And what is in these folders that is so exclusive that each one requires a unique password in order to be able to download it? And this wasn't some staff-only area of the website, which even that wouldn't really make any sense, but there were apparently 110 people in this exclusive pizza club. And again, once this came out, the entire section of the website disappeared, which really does make you wonder why. It's already
because they finally get caught, and they love to do that kind of stuff because they know that no one know what kind of things they are doing. But the moment they get caught, they decided to just say, oh okay, so you finally caught us, but how about we sell this kind of stuff somewhere else, and the same cycle continues.
bizarre that it was there to begin with, but why was it removed once the public found out about it? Again, assuming this is all real, because I don't have a way to verify it myself at this point. It was apparently deleted 10 years ago, but why did they try to bury it? Why did they try to cover it up? What's there that they don't want you to see? While looking into Comet Pizza, some people noticed something peculiar about the logo of Besta Pizza, another pizza place in Washington, D.C., located only 2 blocks down from Comet. Besta Pizza's logo is literally the boy lover symbol from the FBI document. Of course, this could be a coincidence, but again, as soon as people started talking about this online and pointing it out, Besta Pizza immediately changed their logo and removed the symbol.
And another thing is that if you are trying to sell pizza, why the hell do you need that kind of symboling into it? Because pizza logo should not be like that. So I'm pretty sure they know what they are doing, and then they, when finally get caught, they decided to change everything.
They have just genuinely not known this, and then as soon as people start talking about it online, they realize and change it. Yeah, sure.
No, it's not possible.
And to be honest, Besta Pizza was kind of put in a lose-lose situation, because if they ignore what's going on and don't do anything, people are going to point to the symbolism and say they're involved. But if they do something like change their logo, people are going to say, oh, well, obviously they did know about this symbolism, and now they're trying to cover it up. Some people online have made the claim that Besta Pizza, which is now closed, was owned by Andrew Klein, who worked with the Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit under Obama's Department of Justice. And if that was the case, it would be a glaring red flag and would make the symbolism in the logo being a coincidence seemingly impossible. However, doing my own research, that doesn't seem to be the case, and I would say that there's a very small probability that there's any truth behind that claim at all. The DC Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs listed Besta Pizza under the corporate entity Uptown Pizza Inc., and Andrew Klein is listed as a non-commercial registered agent, which means that he was a third party associated with Besta Pizza, most likely a lawyer, but definitely not the owner. I say most likely a lawyer because Veritas Law Firm in Washington, D.C. has an Andrew J. Klein listed as their co-founder who's been representing business and real estate clients for over 30 years. And from his picture, he's visibly a different person than the one associated with the Obama administration. If you ask me to point to one part of this whole theory that I think is most likely to be just a coincidence, it would be this part, and I really do think that these two men are just both named Andrew J. Klein. But who knows, maybe the lawyer isn't a real person and he's actually a honeypot designed by the deep state in order to make the whole conspiracy more easy to delegitimize. I don't think that's likely, but crazier things have happened. Just across the street from Comet Ping Pong and Besta Pizza is a French restaurant known as Terrasol Gallery. And again, just like Besta Pizza, as soon as people started talking about this logo online, it vanished from their website. They were put into the same lose-lose situation, and again, people took this response and action as an admission of guilt. And again, if there weren't so many other coincidences, I don't think that people would have harped on this point so much. But there are so many other coincidences, and people can only lend you so much credence. Also on the Terrasol website was a picture of Hillary Clinton there, and I will not comment any farther on that. She was there though, and that's a pretty strong endorsement. The food was probably really good. Of course, people were also looking into the Comet logo at this time, and while there was no blatant symbology that was mentioned in the FBI document, people did find something strange. Now stay with me because this is gonna sound like a reach, and it did to me at first too, but people pointed out that the Comet logo features crescent moons similar to some depictions of Moloch. For those of you who don't know, Moloch is a deity from the Hebrew Bible strongly
And billionaire love that deity a lot.
associated with child sacrifice. Some depictions of Moloch, especially later depictions, show him with a star on his forehead and two crescent moons around either one of his hands. I know this seems like a massive reach, but guess what old world god's name appears in an Instagram post by Jimmy Comet? That's right, in this post on Jimmy Comet's Instagram showing off some Christmas presents he received, if you zoom in on the bottom left, you can see the word Moloch. That is so strange.
And they are literally showing that kind of stuff while knowing like no one can do anything to them.
And it's not like it's in a book or anything either. It looks like it's printed out on a single sheet of paper. Personally, I've never received any sort of gift, especially not a Christmas gift, referencing Moloch or any other deity. Maybe this is normal and I'm just out of the loop or something, but to me, that seems really weird. Especially when you keep in mind all the ties to the occult and Marina Abramovich. It's all just so strange, and when that's the best case scenario, when the best case scenario is that you do occult rituals and worship old world deities that are connected to human sacrifice, it doesn't exactly leave a positive impression on people. The Pizzagate conspiracy all coalesced into one incident that took place at Comet Ping Pong, and my good friend Mr. Pild is going to jump in and give you the rundown on the entire event.
In 2016, a crazed lunatic, driven mad by absurd conspiracy theories, stormed into Comet's Pizza armed with a rifle. Totally incoherent and insane, of course, he starts firing wildly at everyone and hurts no one, and only destroys one very peculiar and convenient item. According to the official Department of Justice narrative, 29-year-old Edgar Welch did indeed walk into Comet's Pizza armed with a AR-15 and a revolver. Customers and employees alike fled, while Edgar himself remained inside of the restaurant for about 20 minutes. What was he doing in there? Well, he found a locked closet door, and he tried to jimmy it open. But when he couldn't, he decided to fire rounds into the door. After that, he didn't try and continue to get inside, he didn't break down the door, he stashed away his rifle and his revolver, walks outside unarmed, and is then arrested and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Now, what was inside that closet randomly that happened to get hit and destroyed? It was a computer, and everything on it was now gone.
Yeah, it was very perfect shooting because he was there to shoot a PC and not somebody else.
I don't know about you, but even before looking deeper into it, even the official narrative is very weird. It's just way too clean for an active shooter event like this. Historically speaking, these are not so happy ending. Authorities claim that the AR-15 and the revolver were recovered inside of the restaurant, and then they discovered a shotgun hidden in his trunk with some ammunition. But one of the only eyewitnesses to this event, a lawyer in Maryland named Sharif, who was there with his wife and kids, claims that Edgar walked in initially with a shotgun. While this whole thing was going down, Sharif was making a series of tweets detailing the situation, while he also claims that Edgar stashed away the shotgun potentially for future use. In the official narrative, it does describe Edgar stashing weapons away for potential future use. However, my problem lies in the discrepancy between what kind of weapon. And that's because you don't have to be a firearms expert to tell the difference between a shotgun and an AR-15.
Yeah, because those kind of guns are completely different, and even everyone know in today day and age, it is very easy to see what kind of weapons they are. If you play games, you know about it, and if you use social media, you already know what kind of guns people just show on their Instagram or YouTube.
They're very distinct. They have very distinct profiles and silhouettes. Anyways, get this. Edgar Welch is an actor listed on IMDb. Now that alone would be just a crazy, weird coincidence, right? But his father, Harry Welch, owns a media company by the name of Forever Young Productions.
Forever Young. They love to just blatantly say things which people will never suspect them to do.
You can't make this shit up. That's not where the oddities end, though. Harry Welch is a creature in his own. According to his IMDb bio, Harry Welch is a very, very distinguished fella. Let's take a look at it. Written over 30 screenplays. He took up karate in his 30s. That's pretty late, pretty old to be fighting. And then went undefeated in 200 matchups. Wow! Holy moly! He holds 7 Guinness Book World Records for one-armed, one-finger, and one-fingertip push-ups. Very impressive. Not only is he a physical specimen, but he's got a soft side too. He served as a foster family to 3 different children, and is an avid animal lover, being a rescuer of animals for 30 years, rescuing tigers, jaguars, leopards, servals, and operating a no-kill shelter for dogs, housing up to 55 at a time. They have found forever homes for over 300. So sweet. Things start to get a little bit more serious, though, in his bio, saying he worked on federal, state, and local task forces fighting the war on drugs. Served 5 years with the Rowan County ABC Police. Side note, the ABC Police, I don't know what that is or what that stands for, because I couldn't find any information on what the hell the ABC Police was. Stakeouts, watching illegal stills, patrolling the county for suspected bootleggers, even working with the ATF. Gross. Even the President of the United States in 1988, Ronald Reagan himself, recognized the excellence of Harry Welch because he hand-selected him and 15 others to check out various military installations, even giving them national clearance and letting them check out the Cheyenne Mountain Nuclear Bunker, which is a command alternative for NORAD. That's big boy stuff right there. Why would goofy old Harry, owner of Forever Young Productions, need to explore a nuclear bunker? However, I think the weirdest highlight was one that stood out mainly because of the context. Served as executive director for Protect a Child, a national nonprofit organization to prevent abuse and abduction of children, appointed by Governor Jim Martin to the Governor's Commission on Child Victimization. In conjunction with this story and this conspiracy theory, that's a little weird. But what's weirder is the fact that this Protect a Child organization doesn't exist. At least I couldn't find anything on it. So as far as I know, this doesn't exist.
Come on guys, they are working undercover. That's why you don't know who they are. You know what I mean by that? Sometimes they just try to make words up and try to show how much of a good people they are, but in reality they are nothing but demons.
So why would he put it in his bio? That's about as far as it goes for Harry Welch. I couldn't really find anything else, but I want to bring this back to Edgar because his story's not finished yet. So I like to remain skeptical when I dive deep into these subjects, so that way I don't get sucked into that I want to believe mindset, you know? because I think that's pretty easy. I was asking myself, if he was really a part of this conspiracy, what would he gain from destroying that computer? What would be his motive to do that? And looking into Edgar's past, I think I found a fairly reasonable potential answer to that. See, previous to the charges that landed him a 4-year sentence after walking into Comet's Pizza, Edgar had struck a 13-year-old child in a reckless driving incident. And as a man who had previous DWI charges, he was facing a pretty serious sentencing. And if we're playing with the idea that some very powerful people needed a scapegoat or a way to get rid of some evidence or a way to maybe suppress these conspiracy theories that were making their ways out into the public, then I think it'd be a no-brainer if he was left between the choices of leaving his fate and his freedom up to the court system, potentially facing much harsher punishment, or, walk into this pizza joint. Don't hurt anybody. Don't do nothing too bad.
And yeah, it can be a very possible thing, and yes, it is possible, and he did that because come on, who will reject that kind of deal where you don't have to hurt somebody, and the charges can be dropped on you, or maybe the sentence of you going to jail will be much lighter than the original sentence was.
And just destroy this computer, get 4 years, fairly light, and then be on your way. Have your previous charges nullified. It's a good deal. I'd take that deal. Just some food for thought. Well, to finally wrap this chapter up, Edgar didn't even get to enjoy his freedom because 5 years...
Wait a second. Please tell me that he was killed, or maybe he just killed himself.
Years after his release, in January of 2025, Edgar was killed in a officer-related shooting.
See, I told you. It is a kind of movie plot where that kind of stuff happened.
After a traffic stop. Apparently he pulled a gun on officers, and no one knows why. Sounds a lot like a loose end tied up to me. But what do I know?
Big thank you to Ethan, or Mr. Pilled, for jumping in and going over that whole section. He's a really great dude. I've known him for about 5 years now, which is crazy. Time flies. But he makes really good videos. If you like the stuff that I post over here, there's a good chance that you'll like a lot of his content as well. So I'll leave a link to his stuff in the description and in the comments. Go check him out and tell him to post more often. He did a really good job, so I don't feel the need to yap too much about this. But again, just so many coincidences that you have to overlook. What are the chances that this guy is facing serious criminal charges before he decides to do something like this? It's not impossible, but it is a little bit weird. What are the odds that this guy, who happens to be an actor, decides to go into Comet with a rifle and do something like this, and nobody gets hurt except the computer is destroyed?
Yeah, because it does not make sense. Come on. And another thing is why they decided to stage this whole thing like a shooter will go there and destroy that kind of stuff. Why they decided to not just wipe the whole PC themselves? Or maybe just another thing is that they can just say that there was a robbery, which they can fake a whole robbery if they can just fake the whole shooting there, and they can just steal a lot of stuff and with computer there, and no one will suspect like that kind of thing can happen. There was robbers and they decided to rob the shop and they steal everything. But why they decided to portray the whole thing as like a shooting does not make sense.
Destroyed, that's pretty convenient. Not impossible. I mean, maybe he was just a lunatic. Crazy people do crazy things all the time. But again, with everything else taken into consideration, it gets harder to ignore these oddities in the story. If it was just a few weird things, it would be much easier to say people are just drawing lines and connections where there really aren't any, and it's all just one crazy conspiracy theory. But when every single beat of the story is filled with these coincidences, it gets harder and harder for people to just overlook them and say, yeah, there's no chance that any of this is real. Maybe the official story is 100% true, and this really is nothing more than a conspiracy, and
No, I am pretty sure it is real and it's not a conspiracy.
none of these things are connected at all in any way. But in the court of public opinion, you're going to have a really hard time convincing people of that. The human brain is designed to recognize patterns, so when seemingly all of this stuff is connected, you're going to have a really hard time convincing people that that's not the case. That pretty much summarizes the entire theory, or at least everything that I can cover here in a reasonable amount of time. The whole thing goes so incredibly deep that I would never be able to cover absolutely everything. If this does interest you, I highly recommend going down the rabbit hole yourself because there's just an endless amount of theories and speculation online. But before we go, here are a bunch of other coincidences that I stumbled across when researching that I couldn't really fit into the main portion of this script. First of all, Hillary Clinton, who is seemingly very tied into this whole alleged scandal. She's very connected to all the people who are directly involved. Well, Frank Giestra, a member of the Clinton Foundation Board of Trustees who's donated over $100 million to the foundation, helped fund the El Paida Project, a project focused on raising the living conditions of refugees. And the logo is literally the exact same as the symbol mentioned in the FBI document.
They are literally showing everything in front of people, so if everything comes out, maybe people will not suspect them and say like, okay, maybe they have the logo first, or maybe that is a coincidence, but in reality it is not.
Or boy lover. The Besta Pizza logo was pretty on the money with that same symbol. This is literally just that symbol. It's exact. It's not even a different color. It is just a giant blue spiraling triangle. Another person connected to the Clintons is Laura Silsby, the founder of New Life Children's Refuge. She went to Haiti in 2010 to help rehome orphaned children after the catastrophically destructive magnitude 7 earthquake. What a kind-hearted woman, right?
Yeah.
Surely she would never
I'm pretty sure she also done some horrible stuff.
traffic children. Well, guess what? She was caught by Haitian authorities smuggling 33 children on a
33 children, okay? Keep in mind.
bus across the Haitian border into the Dominican Republic. She was doing this without permission from Haiti, so illegal, and then when she was
By the way, imagine how brave she is that she take a bus full of children and decided to smuggle them and traffic them to another state or country. I don't know which place that is.
detained, it became quickly apparent that most of, if not all of these children, weren't even orphans. So she took essentially a class full of children, took them away from their families, and then tried to flee the country and cross the border. Well, she was held in Haiti facing charges of conspiracy and child abduction until Bill Clinton stepped in
And let me guess, was she pardoned or what?
and got her charges reduced to arranging irregular travel. She served a
Yep. It kind of effed up because I have seen a lot of cases like that, and president will just say, oh yeah, how about I just pardon you or reduce your sentence.
6-month sentence in Haiti and then was returned to the United States. And fun fact, this woman who tried to smuggle children across the border away from their families has since changed her name to Laura Gaylor and has since been given an executive role at AlertSense, the company that provides the delivery infrastructure for Amber Alert. You know,
Oh. Just imagine there is a guy who did robbery and robbed banks, and then the bank decided to invite him, and he joined the board of directors of that group. How it can make sense?
Amber Alert, the shit that pings your phone when a child goes missing. Yeah, a woman who was tried for child abduction is working for that company as an executive. That is so awesome. And then when Monica Peterson, the assistant director at the Human Trafficking Center in Colorado, began looking into the Clintons' involvement in Haiti, she was found dead. Of course, this was ruled to be caused by her own volition. Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, just like how Jeffrey Epstein stuff happened.
Right, guys? And then there's one more slice to this story, and one that has largely been forgotten as time has moved on. It's something known as Cheesy Bay. This is the last time you'll hear me say this here, but I'm not asserting that this is true, and you should really take this last part with a grain of salt because it relies heavily on unproven claims. On April 21st, 2016, a Reddit throwaway account posted the question, why would there be 30-something Wi-Fi networks apparently coming from underneath a concrete pad? The user says that they had recently been working on a semi-urban farm property in Honolulu, and he then connected the man who owned the property to an eBay account selling faulty computer parts for ridiculous prices. The eBay accounts allegedly belonged to a man going under the aliases Biff Skipman and Dave Flintstone. Someone apparently managed to hack into his emails and found correspondence with Sasha Lord, a DC area mentor for at-risk children, and also the event organizer at Comet Ping Pong. Now, the reason that I specifically mentioned that you should take this part as a grain of salt is because these emails were never fact-checked or verified by any government agency or third-party source, unlike the Podesta emails, so we don't even know if these are true. But allegedly, this eBay seller and the event organizer at Comet Ping Pong had been put in touch by a person named Richard Windsor. Who is Richard Windsor? Well, it happens to be a known alias for the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lisa Jackson, who is also a Clinton Foundation board member. This part is true. She was caught using the fake email name Richard Windsor for who knows what, right? So it was already known that she had been communicating under the alias of Richard Windsor. So it's very plausible that people online already knew that she was communicating under this alias, and then they added this alias into this theory or story to kind of make it seem more credible. But coincidentally, Dave Flintstone, the man who was apparently running this eBay account, also happens to be the name of a man who founded a distillery in Hawaii. If you remember, OP said that they had been working on an urban farm area in Honolulu. This bag from OP's pictures also resembles a bag that Dave Flintstone has been photographed with. And there's one more email from the Podesta leaks that I haven't mentioned to you yet. Man, I miss you. The next 3 months are going to be rougher internally than in Beijing, between 7th and 1600. No fun. Hope you're doing okay. I'm dreaming about your hot dog stand in Hawaii. This email was sent from Todd Stern, another Democratic donor and a person tied in with the Clintons. That seems like a weird thing to say. I'm dreaming about your hot dog stand in Hawaii. Well, this is a very recent revelation, but in April of this year, a man named David Flintstone, who is a resident of Hawaii, was arrested in Colombia for soliciting a minor. Upon responding, the officers found the 60-year-old foreigner in the company of a 15-year-old. Initial investigations indicate that the man had arranged an encounter with her worth 1 million pesos.
How much is 1 million pesos? Wait a second, I need to search. So 1 million pesos is equal to $58,000. How much he was paying? Was he paying for one girl or maybe multiple, or some kind of trafficking was going on?
David Flintstone that was arrested in Colombia also happens to be the same age as the one who founded the dispensary. They're both 60 years old. For whatever reason, the man's face is blurred in the article, so there's no way to tell for sure if this is the same person. But if these are two different men, that is a wild coincidence, because they would have to share the same first name, the same last name, be the same age, and both be from Hawaii. And even though the man arrested in Colombia had his face blurred, they do vaguely resemble each other, especially in the body structure. As of right now, like I said, there's no official confirmation that these are the same people, so we'll just have to wait and see if anything else comes out. But those odds have to be like 1 in a billion. That is crazy. Especially in Hawaii, I just looked it up, and the population is under 1.5 million people, so it's a very small state. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Please let me know in the comments what you...
And I love to watch it. You can subscribe to Jesse. I think I'm saying it correctly, and that was a very good video and I love it. I finally able to know what the Pizzagate thing was, and that's it for today's video. If you want to recommend me some kind of video to watch, you can just say it, and see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.